Hello. We're doing some clever coffee dripper brewing today, as well as showing just the right way to use a clever coffee dripper, which is really simple. We're going to also show two different ways you can actually brew overdosed, a strong dripper, and then add water to it to change the flavor profile. And for that we're using a really acidic Kenya coffee that's a fairly light roast. So a coffee that maybe some people would like to tone down a little, but also bring up the sweetness. So some changes in brewing can actually achieve that. So I have two clever coffee drippers set up, and the first thing I always do is I wash out the filters. We're switching to white filters now instead of the aroma browns because we find they have less paper filter taste. Paper filter taste is really bad in drip brewing with small quantities, small volumes of coffee, if you don't wash out the filter. You also kind of want to preheat everything. So I tend to just put it on the cup that I'm going to brew on and get everything kind of warmed up a bit so you don't have the dramatic heat loss of pouring the hot water in here and having it all get absorbed by this very cold filter cone. So I'm going to wash it a little more and I'm going to start my brewing. Our formula here is we're going to be using 20 grams of coffee to 350 ml of water to produce about 19% extraction. It's hard to show, but what we like for Clever Coffee Dripper is a grind that is fine, maybe a little bit finer than people are used to with filter drip, but not an espresso grind by any means. So espresso grind, you can tell oftentimes by the clumping nature of the grind. So, So espresso grind, you can tell by how it clumps. So when you pinch it, if it would stick to your finger, that doesn't count. That was just kind of sticking by nature. But if it would stick and form a cake when you pinch it, then you're definitely into the espresso territory. So we're definitely outside of that. We're in filter grind territory. So let's go ahead and put our 20 grams in. Let's get our coffee. This is going to be my full infusion, and what's nice with the Clever Coffee Dripper is it doesn't require some fancy technique for brewing or stirring. It just requires that you fill it. Our next shipment of Clever Coffee Drippers is going to have a lid that covers the top, but for now we just use a plate. So this is my full water, full amount of coffee. But over here we are going to use half amount of water, which I've measured out as 180 grams, which is kind of 180 milliliters more or less, probably about 160 milliliters. And I'll start a second timer on that. So we're approaching 1 minute here. I like to stir it 1 minute without losing too much heat. I also tend to just stir the top, not the bottom. Okay, 1 minute's elapsed over here, so I'll just stir the top here. So when we're brewing with any brewer, what we're doing is we're washing the soluble solids out of the coffee, using water as a solvent. So heat, the amount of contact time that the water and coffee are together, as well as the turbidity, whether you stir the coffee-water combination or not, are all factors that control the rate of extraction. So I'm at 3 minutes here, and I'm going to start to drain my first full immersion Clever Coffee Dripper. And this is the one where I have the full amount of water, which was 350 grams of water, and 20 grams of coffee. We'll just let that drain. This is the one I did second, which is a concentrate. I used 180 grams of water, and we'll be coming up on drainage time right about now. And what we're going to do here is we're going to add hot water and see the difference between the flavors of these two. With the Clever Coffee Dripper, I start my draining at 3 minutes now. Between 3 minutes and 4 minutes is fine. But I'm finding with my slightly finer grind, I stir it at 1 minute, I begin draining at 3 minutes, and my draining time finishes up around 4:30. So we started draining here at 3, and we've got a little bit more to go, and it's 4:30 right now. Okay, so here come our Clever Coffee Drippers again. We're all done here. This is our full brew, and this is our sort of concentrate. And what I'm going to do now is just to taste them quickly. This is a very acidic Kenya. So, just confirming that this is extremely strong. So what we're going to do is we're going to add hot water. Now, I used to think this was heresy, basically, to be adding hot water to a brew, and which is essentially diluting it and not passing through the filter. However, I found that you can kind of shape the flavors of different brews, especially really acidic coffee, by doing this. So let's see what we have now. So the results are pretty interesting. This is Kenya Gathathi, which is hard to say. That's a Nyeri coffee from Mathura district. And what we have is the Clever Coffee Dripper brew, where we brewed the full amount of water through the coffee, 350 grams of water, 352 grams of water, 20 grams of coffee. Over here we used 180 grams of water, kind of a half dose, and 20 grams of coffee. So it's the same brew, and what we're doing is diluting the one, adding water after brewing in order to bring it up to the same level of soluble solids. And what we have is two really different flavors, which is really interesting. So on the Kenyas, I would say that what we have with a concentrated brew that was diluted is a coffee. It's very clean. It's a little bit more syrupy. It has a lot of sweetness and a little bit less acidity. Over here we have something that has a kind of more aggressive acidity, more perhaps articulated, comes to a kind of a finer point, and if that makes any, is sort of an image reference for the sharpness of the acidity in this cup. I would say this is a little sharper. I would say this has a little bit more bittering components, is a little bit more of a rindy kind of citrus, whereas this is softer and rounder. It makes sense what we're tasting here, and what's kind of happening during the extraction is that we're not passing those last bits of water through this coffee that tend to pull out a little bit more of a bittering component. You need this flavor in coffee because it's something that provides a kind of a structure to a cup. I mean, coffee is a bittering drink, and to get an ideal extraction, an ideal infusion time and such, is to pull out everything that you want that's positive in the flavors of a coffee, and avoid the things that, if you over-extract, are bittering components. So, but you can't shape the flavor with doing something like this. So, it's an interesting experiment.